6 years ago, I started my YouTube channel, and the very first video I uploaded was the Costumes of Cersei Lannister. It wasn't a complete video because it only went up to season 5, and I was still learning the YouTube ropes. I thought I would correct that by doing a video of all of Cersei's costumes from HBO's Game of Thrones and designed by series costume designer Michele Clapton. For the sake of this video, I'm going to rank them in order of my least favorite to my most favorite. There's a good chance you'll have a difference of opinion. That's okay. I welcome it. This is just my personal preference. There are so many outfits that I am having a difficult time deciding which outfits I like best that I am moving the costumes around even as I'm recording this. And you can skip ahead to my top 10 list if you don't have time to watch the entire video. If you want to make a drinking game of this, take a sip every time you see Cersei with a glass of wine in her hand, but be warned, there are a lot of pictures of her drinking. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones, why are you here? Go watch it, otherwise this video will spoil it for you. Now without further ado, drum roll. Number 33, Imprisonment Shift. Number 32, Walk of Shame. I have both her Imprisonment Shift and Walk of Shame Linen Shift lumped together because they are essentially the same. They are at the bottom of this list not because I don't think they are important, but because it's a pretty simple costume and something had to go here. Number 31, Queen Cersei Dressing Gown. Cersei wore this pretty dressing gown in one brief scene in season 7. It's interesting that since she has essentially masculinized the women's clothing from season 7 on, at least in the court, she goes back to this wafty, Eastern-inspired dressing gown in the same shape as her dresses in seasons 1 through 5. There's a very pretty embroidery detail on the gown I found featured on embroidery artist Michele Carragher's website. Season 7 was so dark that I could barely make it out, but it looks like it wasn't finished before they went to camera. Number 30, Queen Cersei Black Blister Dress. I have this near the bottom because this is just a personal preference, but I didn't see a need for this dress in season 7, and other than the interesting fabric from Top Fabrica Soho, there is nothing remarkable about it in my humble opinion. Number 29, Winterfell Feast. Cersei wears this one-of-a-kind garment at the Winterfell banquet in keeping with the Lannister colors of crimson and gold. She wears the stag tiara taken from the sigil of House Baratheon, which we see throughout season 1 for many of her official appearances. I have it near the bottom because it was only used in this one scene, and I never could see what it looked like on the bottom. Clapton only designed the top portion, so Lena Headey could be wearing sweatpants on the bottom for all I know. Sadly, it never went on exhibit to my knowledge. Number 28, Tourney of the Hand. Number 27, Ned Execution Dress. I'm lumping Cersei's Tourney of the Hand and the dress that Cersei wears to Ned's sentencing and execution together because they have a similar silhouette. This is one of the first designs that Clapton created for the show. I thought they were interesting costumes, but there are other costumes on this list that rank much higher. The most exciting aspect of these costumes are the capes that are embroidered with the oversized lions. I'm not sure if I noticed this before, but the gem in Cersei's tiara is red, while the stone in episode Baelor is green. In the books, Cersei often wears red rubies and emeralds. Number 26, Red Sleeveless Dress. In the final episode of season 3, when Jaime returns to King's Landing, Jaime sees Cersei for the first time in her bedchamber wearing a red silk, simple-fitted dress. Cersei's state of undress makes her appear more vulnerable. It is simple and I like it very much, but obviously it's not as tailored or as embellished as her court dresses. Number 25, Queen Cersei Chainmail Dress. For the Dragon Pit Armistice, Cersei wears a faux mail frock with a black felted wool pelisse over jacket. This might be a surprise, but I have this costume lower on my list. I like the little backbone detail on the back. It pays an homage to the late Alexander McQueen, but I wasn't as crazy about the overall silhouette or the construction of this gown made from a faux mail fabric from Top Fabric of Soho. Number 24, Queen Cersei red velvet gown, and number 23, Queen Cersei black velvet gown. Queen Cersei only has 2 costumes in Season 8. I have them both lower on this list because I think that Clapton has designed so many better costumes than these 2. Of the pair, I prefer the black and gold one. Her trilobite pauldrons look to be inspired by H.R. Giger or a cheese grater. I do appreciate some of the aspects of these gowns, including the front pleating technique that appears reminiscent of an X-ray, like we see in some of Alexander McQueen's ready-to-wear collections, as well as the rivet details that cover her abdomen and unborn child and the long Lannister pendant that hangs over her tummy like a talisman. Clapton said of the red costume, "There's something twisted and reptilian about the metalwork that makes her look untrustworthy. This season, there's less pattern and more studding on her dresses to show that she's protecting herself and feeling more threatened. I also wanted to get those deep Lannister reds back in. She's still in mourning, but the red is slowly coming to the surface." Number 22, Young Cersei. Cersei is featured in a flashback visiting Maggie the Frog. She's dressed in a kimono-style gown, showing that this style of dress, given the color and identical construction, is specific to House Lannister and likely influenced by the Targaryen monarchy under Mad King Aerys II. Cersei wears her gold pendant with the lion sigil in all seasons of Game of Thrones, including during the previous flashback scene. We have no idea where it came from. Perhaps it was a gift from Tywin, or maybe it belonged to her mother. The lion pendants were made for the show by Steenson's Jewelers in Ireland, created by CAD, and according to their website, cast in sterling silver, gold-plated, and aged. Number 21, Fern Arrest Dress. Cersei pays a visit to Marjorie and finds herself arrested at the same time in this gown. This dress was so underutilized, I couldn't even decipher any of the details on first viewing. After getting some good stills from the show and some studio shots on the Making Game of Thrones website, it appears that the dress is made from a bronze silk jacquard with a black or navy fern detail. I wish she had worn this dress more because it's lovely. Cersei wore the collar embroidered by Michele Carragher in the episode Sons of the Harpy in Season 5. Number 20, Blow Up the Sept of Baelor. Michele Clapton was brought in to design some key costumes from the Season 6 series finale, including this basket weave embossed leather gown, a foray into more masculine clothing. This is Cersei's version of a power suit, a feminine version of the man's leather long-line doublet, the kind that her father Tywin always wore. This dress tells you that Cersei has moved to the dark side. There are some feminine touches, of course. The gown is cut and sewn with princess seams that create the almost hourglass shaping. The long fitted 2-piece sleeves, a departure from her previous gowns, are pointed at the end, and the stand-up collar is a popular men's collar style in Westeros. The collar is slightly curved at the throat and it arches up toward the back of the neck. The dress is very clean looking except for the heavily embroidered shoulders. The lion sigil shoulder decorations are built up with metallic silver and black embroidery floss and a large amount of beading and cut crystals to offset the starkness of the black. Clapton made the choice that Cersei would move into the silvers at the end of Season 6 with her embroideries and this silver livery. Number 19, Queen Cersei Tywin leather gown. When Cersei walks into the throne room at the end of the Season 6 finale, there is no doubt that Cersei has entered into full Mad Queen territory. Akin to her Blow Up the Sept of Baelor look, her gown is fashioned after her father Tywin's leather coats that he was so fond of. The gown overlayer is made from the same openwork coat fabric that Tywin wore, lightweight Italian-cut leather from leather producers D'Alessio Galliano in Rome, Italy. And the underlayer is a silver and black textured brocade from London's Atfield. Clapton said, I knew it had to be leather, and I knew it had to be linked to Tywin. I wanted a distinct, strong silhouette, so I squared her shoulders. I also wanted the dress to skim her ankles so that you could see her feet. Again, strength. She adds, the silver shoulders are decorated in a similar manner to Jaime's gold hand, the one person that she still has something with. Of Cersei's silver lion tiara, Clapton said, I chose to make it in silver with just wisps of gold to try to show her isolation, her mental disentangling from her family. There is no reference to Baratheon. There's no need anymore. She doesn't have to try and prove a link. The center of the crown is a lion sigil abstracted. Its mane represents the Iron Throne, her desire. She has made it her own. She is reborn. And according to Steenson's, this was the first Game of Thrones crown to be constructed completely using CAD software. Number 18, Queen Cersei embroidered collar and pauldrons. I like this costume better than Cersei's leather gowns. The dress has a silhouette similar to her blow-up-the-sept gown, but it's made all the more interesting with the addition of the heavily embroidered spiky gorget collar and pauldron shoulder pieces. The wired metallic braid on her collar was provided by Krennic Manufacturing Company, Inc. in West Virginia. But this metallic tweed-like front zip gown isn't much without the addition of the collar and shoulder pieces. It's a bit ill-fitting when she's sitting because she's wearing a corset as a foundation. And I know this was for budget reasons, but to make this costume go further, Clapton and her team made a matching dickie and added a black short fur cape, similar to the one that Joffrey wore in Season 1. It might be the same one. Number 17, Sansa and Tyrion's wedding, red velvet. Near the end of Season 1 and moving into Seasons 2 and 3, the silhouette of Cersei's gowns changes from soft and draped to more structured and fitted corseted bodices with a rigid, off-the-shoulder silhouette. Here are some examples of Alexander McQueen's collection and his famous bell dress that McQueen designed for Bjork. Clapton took inspiration from McQueen with this style of collar for both Marjorie's Season 2 burrito dress and Cersei's structured gowns in Seasons 2 through 4. In the episode Second Sons, Cersei threatens to strangle Marjorie in her sleep if she dared call her sister again while wearing this dark red velvet gown. Clapton has stated in interviews that the wardrobe weaves and prints many of the show's fabrics. Cersei's gown fabric was custom printed with this gold rampant lion motif, and the elaborate lion embroidery was added to the slim upper sleeves for added drama. In a process that took 42 man-hours, Michele Clapton hand-beaded the crest using an assortment of threads, pearls, crystals, beads, and other ornamentation before attaching the embroidery to Cersei's gown. The hanging sleeves and rigid collar are lined in rich golden silk. Number 16, soft red kimono with lion embroidery. Here is one of the many kimono-style gowns worn by Cersei in the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones. You could argue that it's not a true kimono at all, and you'd be right. Clapton was marrying Eastern influences with the medieval period and then incorporated from the runway collections of designers like the late Alexander McQueen. According to the V&A, the Japanese kimono was a garment that McQueen endlessly reconfigured in his collections. Clapton has also cited Elsa Schiaparelli as one of her design influences, whose surreal and often whimsical creations featured French couture embroidery artist François Lesage and appear to have inspired the beautiful embroideries in the show. Cersei's gowns become more weighted and embellished with heavier beading in later seasons, and this dress is an example of that. Clapton said in the beginning she was secure, so her gowns were lightly embroidered or printed, but the more precarious her position and the more paranoid she gets, the more Lannister emblem she wears to show her power. Number 15, black morning dress with daggers. This fanciful quill-on dagger motif appears on multiple costumes from seasons 3 to 5, an example of dress fabric that was custom printed for the show. The gold daggers on this dress are the same motif printed on Joffrey's red velvet doublet and black velvet doublet that he wears when his body is lying in state. While it seemed appropriate that Cersei wore this to Tyrion's trial, it cracks me up that she wore it to Tommen and Marjorie's wedding. Jaime uses a Quillon dagger to kill the Stark captain Jory Cassel back in Season 1. Notice that the Quillon is S-shaped, just like from the motif. Number 14, gold with fur. This is a costume that doesn't get a lot of attention. It's the first outfit we see on Cersei as she climbs down out of the carriage in Winterfell and after Joffrey is bitten by Arya's direwolf. The cut of the gown is similar to some of her other gowns worn in Seasons 1 and 2, but this dress is quilted for added warmth as she visits the north. The gold overgown tops a red silk undergown taken from the Lannister lion sigil colors. She wears a fur stole, one of the few times we see Cersei wearing fur. Number 13, lavender and gold. This dress is just too pretty, and Cersei looks so gorgeous in it not to have it high on the list. There is a ridiculous amount of embroidery on the gown, lots of swirling details with the gold beading on the sleeves. She wears it during the dismissal of Sir Barristan Selmy with this beautiful long necklace that Clapton originally designed for her red gown in Season 1. All of Cersei's wrap gowns, like this one, are mostly solid color and then accented with a contrasting or metallic fabric, the collar facings, or the sleeve lining, which are sometimes turned back and tacked in place. Another constant feature in this style of wrap gown are the arched panels, or gores as they might be called, inserted into the skirts just below the waist, sometimes in a contrasting fabric. Not only does this give additional fullness to the skirt of the gown, but it also accentuates Cersei's figure. Number 12, blue-black with memento mori. Number 11, midnight blue with skull embroidery. We see a swift change of costumes for Cersei from Season 4 and onward when Cersei returns to the softer kimono gowns, all in blue-black or black tones. She has lost her firstborn child and begins a period of mourning. The first one is this blue-black jacquard kimono-style gown with gold silk facings, piping in the hips, and ties. The tradition of beading on the shoulders and upper sleeves continues, but somewhat to a lesser extent. Clapton incorporates memento mori symbolism into this gown with jump rings, seed beads, and little black skulls. Memento mori is a direct translation from Latin meaning remember death. It is the object serving as a warning or reminder of death, such as a skull. Despite mourning, Cersei brightens the mood with this midnight blue hand-dyed silk gown for Tyrion's second trial by combat in Season 4 and into Seasons 5 and 6 when Michele Clapton left the show to work on the Netflix series The Crown. We see in the profile 2 lion skulls and a lion head with half of the face a skull. Add to this an assortment of beads that look like bone vertebrae or even animal teeth. This symbolism captures memento mori. We're now in the top 10 and down to my favorite costumes. Number 10, Joffrey and Marjorie's wedding. When I first saw this costume in Season 4, it was easily in my top 5, but as time has passed, it has slid down a bit, but it still deserves a spot in my top 10. The gown is cut and sewn with princess seams, and additional fullness is added to the hips and skirts with gores, with gold lacing at the center back opening of the corseted bodice. The overly long hanging sleeves are lined in gold crinkled silk and tacked back. Like Cersei's dark red velvet gown, a detailed line embroidery applique is attached to the upper sleeves. Clapton said of the color, Cersei is pulling back a little bit. She's not the powerhouse that she was, and I wanted her to be slightly quieter. She's still very beautiful, but just not rocking the red so much. I think she can see her power is abating. Number 9, green dress. One of Cersei's most striking outfits late in Season 1, Episode 7, where Joffrey takes the throne, was this stunning emerald green brocade sleeveless gown with an attached cape. I love the swags that I think are strands of black Swarovski crystal beads. It's a unique gown and the only time that Cersei wears green. But in the books, Cersei wears a series of green dresses. This dress was easily one of my favorites, and I was sad that it didn't get used again or go on display. It's also a statement that she has no time to be mourning Robert's death, which she of course orchestrated. Number 8, soft red kimono. Cersei delivers one of the most pivotal lines in the show while in the garden with Ned in the episode You Win or You Die, from season 1, dressed in this soft red and rose dress. In the exterior setting, Cersei looks almost angelic with her long blonde flowing hair, but after her conversation with Ned, held in the garden, we will learn soon enough that she is no one to be trifled with. There is a delicate metallic gold trim, and the look is softened even further with the addition of a shawl. She also wears the dress in the pilot of The Great Septa Baelor and during the scene with Jaime in the tower. Number 7, black with dagger sleeves. I love this black damask gown. Cersei dresses in this gown for several scenes, including her meeting with the High Sparrow, during a meeting with Olenna Tyrell, and for Loras Tyrell's trial at the halfway point of season 5. Yes, it's simpler than many of her dresses without all of the beading and embroidery, but I dig these square-cut hanging sleeves that are lined with the same dagger print as her other gown. Cersei's gowns like this one are often belted or girdled just shy of the hip with an obi or Japanese belt, often made of cast metal plate, rivets, and gold chainmail, and laced at the center back corset style. She wears a skinnier version of this belt with her blue-green wrap gown in season 1. She also wears the 3-bauble gold lion necklace, which is meant to represent her 3 children. This beautiful collar detail is worn on her fern gown in the episode Sons of the Harpy from season 5. Number 6, blue-green with birds. This dress is so gorgeous, and depending on the light and the color grading, it looks like a completely different outfit. Like many of these wrap dresses, it's made from paper silk, a very light and airy silk fabricated in India and used for saris. The sleeves, shoulders, and neckline feature embroidered birds alighting in silk threads and delicate beading. Why I have this so high on the list is because it shows where Cersei started thematically at the beginning of the series featured in seasons 1 and 2. She wears it at breakfast with Tyrion, with this gorgeous piano shawl, I might add, when she can't help but show her contempt for him. She wears it telling Catelyn that she lost a child, knowing full well that Jaime was the one who pushed Bran out of the window. She wears it half open when she slaps Jaime. She wears it when she tells Robert that she should be the one wearing the armor, and she wears it when Tyrion ships off her daughter to Dorne. Number 5, red brocade off the shoulder. This red brocade gown is peak Cersei, dressed in this bold color when she is asserting her power with Littlefinger or attempting to influence her son Joffrey. We also begin to see the addition of rich colors in Cersei's costumes, like the crimson red of the Lannister family crest. Depending on the scene, it looks like a deep red, at other times like rust. She wears it with her gold Lannister choker and armor like in this scene when she threatens Littlefinger. Number 4, black off-the-shoulder morning dress. Cersei returns in the season 5 premiere in this stunning morning gown despite the somber tone. As she climbs the stairs of the Great Septa Baelor for her father's funeral, in one of the rare exterior shots, you can see the long, full sleeves lined in gold and the train of her dress. This gown is cut with the same silhouette as her other off-the-shoulder gowns, but it looks amazing in this black clock fabric that in the light reflects a slight blister look. In one shot, you can see her silk taffeta petticoat. Number 3, purple brocade with armor. I have kind of gone back and forth with this gown on where I should place it on the list, but I knew right away it had to be in my top 5. The sleeves are very fitted on the upper arm and end in a distinctively square shape. The side panels and sleeve lining are in contrasting gold. Like her rose and gold gown that she wears to Joffrey and Marjorie's wedding, it has these overly long sleeves that have been tacked back. The icing on the cake, of course, with this look is this gold Lannister choker and armor pieces worn with it. Marjorie even attempts to get Cersei's favor by complimenting her on this gown when they are having dinner with King Joffrey in the Season 3 debut. Cersei suggests that Marjorie Tyrell could use her own armor when going out to feed the poor. Number 2, Queen Cersei, black silk satin with spikes. Well, isn't this a queenly gown fit for a mad queen? I love the cut of it, a very fitted, body-hugging torso and sleeves with these pannier folds of fabric at the hip sides. But it still works within the world of Westeros. The fabric is a beautiful matte silk satin, and of course, what makes it so incredible are the spike details covering the shoulders. Clapton said of the sharp spikes and glass-like embellishments of the gown, "She's attained the throne, and there's a strength in her embroidery. It's actually quite ornate, and over the top, it's the last grasp before something else in my sense. It's a weird flamboyance, but it's quite hard as well." Number 1, red embroidered kimono. I have this costume as number 1 because Clapton is essentially harnessing all of Cersei Lannister's power in this one dress. The colors of this gown come directly from the Lannister crimson and gold sigil. Clapton told BuzzFeed that Cersei's color palette plays a huge role, saying, as the story progresses, for instance, Cersei, when we first saw her, she was actually not terribly often in red, and then as she asserts her power, she becomes very bright red, very Lannister. The gores and the skirts are embroidered with the red lion, and the embroidery on the sleeves and back feature this beautiful gold bird detail. Cersei's gowns in most of Season 1, while previously embroidered on silk in great detail with birds or butterflies, are now ornamented in metallic threads, beads, and metal. Knowing the threat to her family and her son's kingdom, she has armored herself at the beginning with this bronze belt, and then later with this beautiful gold breastplate that she wears during the Season 2 Battle of the Blackwater episode when the danger is greater. The engraving on her armor is akin to the engraved red and bronze plates of Jaime and Joffrey Lannister's armor. I think that Clapton's earlier work in the show is some of her best. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. What costumes did you love most? And if you want to see more Game of Thrones content, check out my The Red Wedding video. Thank you for spending time with me. I'll see you in the next video.